Hello. I better talk a bit louder for Mr. Ed. Um, Cheers. Just got the urge to play. This is a really good CD set of Cream. The Hoffman forums give this one good reviews, but I have my issues with some of it, but I won't go into that. 4 a 4 CD set with a booklet. I don't know, probably back in the 90s or something. So I'll be giving this a whirl now that Christmas is. I don't know why. There's something about summer, not Christmas, but summer, that always reminds me of the second Cream album, Disraeli Gears, which is taken from the album cover. An absolute masterpiece of a cover by Martin Sharp, Australian artist, a rich kid that's never had a job in his life, lived in a mansion in one of the best suburbs in eastern Sydney, and brilliant artist. He was totally obsessed with Tiny Tim, and I had Tiny Tim's album, and there's some good bits on it actually. It's quite, in its own way, it's psychedelic and vaudeville. It's not dissimilar to what the Beatles were doing around that time. But anyway, that's getting off track. And there's a place called Luna Park. There's one in Melbourne too. The Luna Park in Sydney is on the harbour. And Martin Sharp was obsessed with Luna Park and Tiny Tim. Anyway, he co-wrote the song Tales of Brave Ulysses for the Disraeli Gears album. I just love the artwork of this album. It just reminds me of summer in Australia when I was 16, going on 17 when this came out. And, getting with my first girlfriends and, um, and the other thing that the only time there was a big thing with incense back in the day, this is a Sandalwood. I've had this for 15 years and it still smells as fresh as a daisy. A lot of people don't realise that sandalwood is from Australia. It's a native tree from northern Australia, and it's an endangered species actually. It's the most beautiful smell. My God. And there's something about, whenever I think of Disraeli Gears, I always can smell sandalwood burning in the background, and it's a great album. I mean, I wish I had. I've got the vinyls. I just wish I had a mono version of Disraeli Gears. I've heard good reviews about that, but trying to find one in good nick is impossible. Anyway, a wonderful, wonderful album. This has got their first 3 albums, which is all that matters, and various other bits and pieces. But it's superb. Anyway, I'll keep this short. So, Martin Sharp, and then I was disappointed. I had he collaborated with Tiny Tim back in the 80s, maybe. I'm not sure exactly when, maybe early 90s. But Tiny Tim did a cover version of Highway to Hell, the AC/DC song, and it's bloody good. I wish I'd kept it. The last time I looked, it goes for an absolute fortune on Discogs. It's got a big sideways profile by Martin Sharp of Tiny Tim, and he's really made his nose look, ultra. You know what I'm talking about? And he just looks. And it was a 12-inch single, and I had it, and it got sold when I had to sell stuff, but it's a pretty good version. Tommy Emmanuel played guitar on it. It was pretty damn good stuff. But I'm digressing as usual. Yeah, so um, yeah, so there's a little town nearby here. I won't say what it is in case what I'm saying is libelous. One of the oldest inner old towns west of Sydney. I'm in Cowtown, Cowra. I won't say what this place is. It's near Blaney, the coldest place on the planet. It's -50 in Siberia is nothing compared with -5 in Blaney. It's horrific. It's somewhere near there. Anyway, I'd went for a drive there one day, and there's nothing much there. It's pretty much the same as it was 100 years ago. But there was I read a story about there was a famous murder in that town where someone tried to rob the bank, broke in at night, and the bank manager and his girlfriend lived there or whatever. And apparently, I can't remember if it was the girlfriend or the guy in the bank was killed with an axe. It was a very famous story from the gold rush. This is a gold rush country I'm living in. 150 years ago. This is gold rush, and so this guy was obviously trying to get the gold bullion. So it was a gruesome axe murder there. Anyway, it was in the old bank. And anyway, I went into the town and I went, oh, that's the old bank where the murder happened. And when I saw a little sign there saying Toy Museum. So I went round the side and, and it was he had his thing out the front, so I figured it was open. And I knocked on the little door at the side and no answer. And then I do the police thing, bang, bang, bang. And this thing opens and crack, he's looking. And I thought, this is weird shit. I said, oh, look, I noticed I can't help myself with this sort of stuff. So I thought, there's something going on here. So I said, I thought you were open. And, he said, oh, well, come on in. And, he's sort of given off not heavy vibes, but just, I don't know, something a bit off about him. And went in, and it was incredibly impressive. It's the old bank vault in the very bank where this murder occurred. And the bank vault was just full of toys. A really incredible collection. I'm not a toy collector, but the thing is, this guy was really into it. That Tintin thing hanging on the wall in that little room there, I bought that off him for $200. And I didn't have any money on me. And this sort of town's got no ATMs, nothing. So I had to drive all the way over to Blaney. I had the worst pie I've ever had in my life. I just went, oh my God, that's awful. Raced back. And when I got back there, I noticed there's this really young guy hanging around out the front. Like, I thought, he almost like he was looking out to see. And I went up and turned around and came back to park, and he disappeared. I thought that was weird. Anyway, I go in there and I hand him the $200, and he said, "Oh, you've saved me. This is great." And I said, "Oh, you've got some singles." He said, "You can have them." And I thought, okay. There's a few Beatles and Stones, old ones there. And so, yeah, it was a very impressive toy thing, like Astro Boy, all that sort of stuff. 50s, 60s stuff. And then I noticed he had all these little jigsaws, little tiny ones. And they were the covers of Martin Sharp, the artist Martin Sharp had done. So I figured that this guy had to be number one, had to be filthy rich to buy this old bank in this old country town. He had to be filthy rich to start with to do that. And I figured I'd put one and one together to get two after I saw a documentary on Martin Sharp. And it wasn't specifically said, but it intimated that he might have been a bit of a nonce, a pedo. He never married. I've never married, but I'm not a nonce or a pedo. But then I thought it all sort of adds up. This guy, he was obviously a rich guy from Sydney at some stage because I just thought, oh yeah. I was just getting this vibe. And who was this young guy? He looked about 14, walking around out the front when I came back. Because They really didn't want to open that side door, even though there was a thing out the front saying open. So I thought, yeah, weird shit. So there you go. We get from cream to sandalwood to nonces, nonsensical ramblings for an old drunk. See you later, alligator.